This is a Communities for Future session. And this is actually our 5th session in a series of online webinars. And it's part of Communities for Future Action Program, which is the theme that is bringing us together here today, and which I believe all of you are keen to explore more in what it is and how can you engage with this program. And as much as we're going to tell you today about what it is in the sense of what has already been done so far, and the work that we have been doing as Ecolis, which is the organization behind this program, as much we also want to invite you to explore with us what it could be, what is the potential in this, and how would it best serve our collective cause. So a couple words, very briefly. Ecolis, as you know, is the organization behind this, the European Network for Community-Led Initiatives on Climate Change and Sustainability. We're a member-based organization with members in 17 European countries. And today, our theme is climate action through deep collaboration. And this is really what we're about as an organization, and what we want to be able to support even better with our Communities for Future program. And to give you an overview on what are the steps of the program today, we're first going to start, after this introduction that I'm giving you, to look deeper into why Communities for Future. Why is it important? Why does it matter? And after that, we're going to have a little exercise for you to so we can have an overview on who's present, who are the participants today. After that, we're moving into some short presentations to hear more concretely what Communities for Future has been working on so far, or what we as Ecolis staff have been working on, and what we have to offer at this point. And then after that, for the second half of the session, we invite your input in group discussions. So that will be a big part of this event, then to explore these opportunities deeper. And we end with a summary and some invitations. And during the whole session, we really invite for your participation through different means. So we have the chat, like I said, you're welcome to use it at all times. And we have the Mentimeter exercises that you will get instructions for when it's the time for that. And we also have some collective slides where we'll be taking notes during the discussions. And we are recording, and this can be seen by you and by others afterwards in our YouTube channel. And next, I'm going to invite to the stage two inspiring people, Francesca and Davy, who are the co-presidents of Ecolis at this moment. And they are going to talk about the why of Communities for Future. So
thanks, Lena. So I'm Davy Phillip. I'm based in Ireland, and I'm currently with Fran, one of the co-presidents of Ecolis. So I'm delighted to be here as we explore how we deepen our collaboration, and maybe just to zoom out a little and give a little wider context, that even in dealing with this pandemic, we're still in a climate and ecological emergency. And of course, we're well aware of the scientific evidence and consensus on the urgent need for transformative change in order to avoid catastrophe. And we can observe within our local movements and networks a growing social awareness and concern, especially around the lack of progress in responding to the climate and ecological emergency, but also in the need for diversity and for a just transition where all voices are included. So this opens up a huge opportunity, I think, for anyone working like we are to support increased engagement and practical actions at the local level. The policy landscape is shifting with the Paris Agreement, the Green New Deal, with the climate law and the Climate Pact, a focus still on the UN 2030 agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. An increased emphasis on climate action in the design of new programs like Erasmus+, like the new Leader program, the Smart Village program, that will provide, we expect in the region of billions coming into our local areas. So our community-led sector need to prepare for this shift of emphasis. And it's in this context we come together as Communities for Future, a shared action program of Ecolease, a platform of organizations and local initiatives and networks that have been pioneering new approaches, new regenerative and resilient approaches to sustainable living at the community level, to preparing our communities for the transition and shift that we're facing. So Communities for Future builds on the experience of many thousands of communities that are already engaged in this transition, some for several decades, and it gives us an opportunity to come together and have more impact and potential deeper collaboration. So over to Fran.
Hi everyone, I'm Fran, here in Catalonia in Spain. Really lovely to see so many faces and especially so many eco-villages present. I'm also from the Global Eco-Village Network in Europe. So just to build a bit on what Davy was saying, so when Communities for Future was first imagined, it was a moment when we were witnessing the new generation of young climate leaders demanding action on the climate crisis. The clue is very obviously in the name, obviously inspired by Fridays for Future. And since then, obviously a new crisis has emerged that's really shown the value and the necessity of community, of mutual support, of networks to care for each other and for the planet in times of emergency. And this is not new. This is stuff that's been going on in all sorts of communities for decades. And Ecolease, as a network of networks, as you know, the Eco-Village network, the permaculture networks, many networks across Europe, it's really in a privileged place to witness the incredible tapestry of community-led solutions that already exist across Europe. And from that vantage point, we've been able to see for a long time that if we could just share these solutions, scale up their transformative impact, and give citizens and communities the support they need, we could do something very unique and very powerful in bringing community-led action really to the mainstream. So it's with this vision in mind of mainstreaming all these incredible things that are already happening, that you are already doing, everyone here is already doing. With that in mind, Communities for Future has evolved into a Europe-wide action program that's designed to inspire, empower, and enable local community-led responses to the climate and ecological emergency, as well as David mentioned, is spearheading a more sustainable and just emergence from the pandemic. Now, many people have asked me, in fact, I think some people who are here today contact me beforehand and said, well, what is this? Why collaborate with Communities for Future? We're all trying to do this in our own networks. What is this? What's going on here? So the first thing I want to say is that Communities for Future is not replacing anything that you're already doing. It's an action plan and a platform to build capacity within and beyond our networks. To help us do more and better together and to reach new people and new places. You'll hear in just a moment from the fantastic Ecolease team about how exactly we'll be doing that and some examples. But I just wanted to give a couple of concrete reasons to engage. Terrible cliche, I know, but together we are stronger. And I say that because there's a misconception that community-led initiatives are small and scattered and distinct, you know, a community garden here, an eco-village here. But what we're doing here is we're joining the dots, and we're joining the dots to show that while each initiative is unique, there are methodologies and commonalities between that can be replicated, learned, shared, scaled up, and together can have a really big impact. Things like the status report that Ecolease provides on community-led initiatives and the European Day of Sustainable Communities are fantastic examples of how we join the dots so we see the big picture, and that policymakers and leaders can see the big picture too and what we're doing. And that links us to another reason to get involved, and this is because it's going to help us get closer to decision makers. And Mira is going to tell us more about how Communities for Future can help us do that as community-led movements. It's also about info gathering. We're all doing incredible work, producing amazing resources about what we learn as communities when we work together, but too often they all get lost outside our immediate circles. So this is a platform where people can come and find all the knowledge and wisdom of all our movements combined. And lastly, capacity building, networking and fundraising. So through Communities for Future, platform and events will eventually be able to tap into the skills, knowledge and resources of other networks and join forces to access training and funding, for example, that we might not be able to do alone. These are just a few reasons of why it's so important and useful to engage. But it's also really a work in progress. It's still being developed. There's still a lot we need to do, and we need you and your initiatives and your communities to help us do it better and tell us what we need to help you flourish and thrive. So with that, I will pass back over to Paulina, who will introduce the Ecolese team.
Thank you, fantastic. So great to hear these words from you. And so great to see so many people here. We're 56 today so far, and more people are coming in. And we already have a lot of great introductions, presentations there in the chat about who you are. And we still want to hear a little bit more. So I'm asking Sarah to share screen so we can all take part in a little Menti poll. So in a few moments, we'll see the question that we want to ask you at this point. How is it going, Sarah? Are you able to share it? Yes, great. So Menti is an application that you can access through a link, and you will be getting the link in the chat. So you're able to respond to this question that we're asking here first. So which of the following describes your role in community-led climate action? And I think many of you feel familiar with several of these roles, so you can choose several, and then we can get an overview on what kind of people we have here today.
Do you have the link on the chat already?
So please click the link on the chat so you can access it in your browser, and you can start responding to this question. And then there's another question too, and then Sarah will be showing us the results as they are flowing in.
You might need to press escape so that you're out of the, you can get access to the rest of your browser.
So please ask if there's any question on how to do it.
It should be quite easy. You just click the link and to reply those two questions. And Sarah, you may want to, while they reply, you may want to share also the screen with the results, and we can see how this changed.
So I hope there's many responses flowing in, and we will start getting an overview now. So great, we have quite a few network weavers here, and I think probably that's the reason also why you're here, to weave this network stronger. And many facilitators do also. And I think we can see this in percentages. So about 1/5 are also hands-on doers here. We're people who are doing this on the ground, are creating things with our hands and our in the local arenas. We have many communicators here. We still have some answers coming in. We have 44 people who have now submitted. There's many visionaries too. It's almost as many as network weavers and facilitators. So there's a lot of people here who are building visions, and that is important. The communicators, some people also who are advocacy workers. And there's another question that we asked you about your focus in 1 or 2 words, what you're an advocate for. And there's so many answers here that we cannot very clearly see each one of them, but we can see the ones that are standing out. So there's many who have responded equality, inclusion, standing in solidarity. So these are important values for many of us. There's words like relearn is standing out, climate, networking, sustainability, social justice, inspiring. It's changing all the time. There's more and more answers coming in. Community. So there's many words that unite us who are here. There's also many words that only one person has put in. So a lot of differences, a lot of diversity, and a lot of things that we share. So that's a fantastic overview. And there's still the last view on the first question. I think this is enough for us now to see more or less who's here, and wow, that gives me really a boost of nice energy to tap into that knowledge and experience that we share in this room. And from here, it's time to move on to hear a bit more concretely about what I promised that would be coming next, which is about the practical things that we do so far within Communities for Future. And for that, I will be inviting to the stage staff of Ecolease. There will be 4 people presenting in very short, but very, very concrete on what they have been working on and what have been some inspiring moments so far within the work with community-led initiatives in this context. And for this piece, I also have a participatory exercise for you, which will also be done through Mentimeter. So Sarah will be posting another link in the chat, and that is for any of the insights that come for you, any of the ideas or the questions that feel important to you when you're listening. So while listening to the coming 15-20 minutes, please use the Mentimeter for taking notes of something that stands out for you, that you want to also for the presenters to see, like, what was it that you took from what you heard. So we'll be looking at your responses after they have spoken and have a little bit of time to respond to them as well. So the Menti link is in the chat, and you can open it when it feels best for you and feed in during the coming section here. And the speakers of this part will be Juan del Rio, Iva Pocock, Mira Ghani, and Tom Henfrey, and they will all take turns in telling us about their work and their inspirations. So I first invite Juan to start.
Thank you, Paulina. Hi to everyone. It's a real pleasure to stay with you now. And the idea is that I'm going to explain together with my colleagues a little story, and a story of something real that has been happening in the last months. And indeed, this is a story you are part of already, because I want to talk briefly about the sessions, about the Communities for Future sessions that started last year in the middle of the pandemic. And the aim of these sessions is to catalyze collaborative processes. And since September, we started the design, and the first session was on celebration, because you know that in many of our community-led initiatives and projects, we know how important is celebration, but we don't have enough time, we're too busy, we let celebration for the end. So we decided to start our first session with celebration, because we thought it was very, very important to meet each other, to really celebrate both our successes and our failures and our challenges, and to have a proper space for that. And that was great, because we have members and from Ecolis, and many people wanting to join and to express things and to have a good space to celebrate. And the second session that we did with a different team, and again with this aim of catalyzing a collaborative process, was about building bridges between community-led initiative movements, because we had permaculture transition and eco-villages there, and we were discussing about how can we better work together, how can we complement each other, and how can we create a shared narrative of change. The third session was in December, and the third session was about creating together, starting together, a co-designing process for an ecosystem of communities of practice. A process that started there of practice like municipalities in transition, Urban A, Blast, and other communities of practice of our network, because we understand that communities of practice are a key space for experimentation, and we think we need to really build bridges among them, learn from each other, and support each other. And in order to support also communities of practice, I wanted to mention, because I think this is very, very important, that we started a collaborative process for an application for a live call called Live Emerge. And in the center of that live application, there's a co-ops arena, a communities of practice arena, that if everything goes well, will support this co-design process that we just started. And by the way, everyone is invited to join to all this process. And the fourth session was about knowledge commons, about starting a co-design process on knowledge commons. And I think my colleague Tom will explain a little bit more later, but a circle working on that is starting in the fourth session. And here we are in the fifth one. And the fifth one is about explaining you where we're at, because we're just at the very beginning, and to hear from you, what is from you collaboration, which ideas can you bring to this, and to invite you to engage with us, because this is something we only can do together. So this is here, this is the idea. This is why we are here. And yep, this is the little story I would like to share. And I want to give this thank you to everyone that has participated so far. More than, I don't know right now, but about 350 participants in all the sessions, and everyone that has taken part in the organization, because every session has been done with a different team. So thank you so much. That's my little story. And I think I pass it to Iva, or to you, Paulina.
Yeah, thank you so much, Juan. Now we can hear from Iva next.
Thanks, Paulina. Thanks, Juan. So yeah, my name is Iva Pocock. I know many of you, great to see so many of you here. And hi, David, I think I can see you on my screen nodding. So what I'd like to talk about is an initiative that was launched by Ecolis now 5 years ago, which is the European Day of Sustainable Communities. So I'm just going to share my screen in a moment. I guess for me, it represents like really incredible collaboration across Europe on a European scale, but also actually further afield as well, extending to North and South America. So in 2017, the initiative was launched, and the idea was it would showcase and kind of spotlight community-led action across Europe on the second or the third Saturday of September. And so in 2017, we had events organized as part of the day in 15 countries across Europe. The following year, that grew to 24 countries. And then that year, we were lucky to, we won a prize, the Lush Spring Prize, which we won £25,000 sterling for our work on the European Day. So I'm just going to share my screen now. Hang on a second. What have I done? Share screen. Whoops, I'm showing the wrong thing. Those are my kids at the European Day of Sustainable Communities a number of years ago. So yeah, so then in 2019, with the support of the money that we won, we distributed amongst, we did a call amongst ECOLES members, and we had a number of organizations in 10 different countries came forward to act as national contact points to promote the day in their country or region. And so in 2019, we actually had hundreds of events in 27 countries, which was really amazing. Then last year, obviously for obvious reasons, you know, the day wasn't as large or as successful as we were hoping because of the pandemic. But still, we had events registered in 16 countries, which I think was pretty amazing considering. And for ECOLES, we used it as an opportunity to launch Communities for Future. So we had a big event online, organized primarily by our policy team and attended by 2 European commissioners, MEPs, and many of our partners all across Europe. So this year we're continuing, and we actually now have some funding. We've secured some funding as part of a European ECDR project to support the work of the national contact points. So we have 8 national contact points signed up now. It's a small amount of funding, but still it's something. And so we're beginning to plan for this year, for the 18th of September. So if you'd like to get involved and help co-create the day, please sign up to our newsletter, which you can do on this, the Communities for Future .org website. And yes, stay tuned. So thank you. I'll hand over now to Mira.
Thanks, Iva. Hi, everyone. My name is Mira Reni. I'm the policy coordinator, and I'm Brussels based. And I actually wanted to invite you into the various ways you can collaborate with us and work on advocacy and policy, not just at the Brussels level, but also within your regional and national context. And last year, we started this process by inviting some of you to host regional webinars just ahead of the policy event that Iva just mentioned to you that took place online because of COVID. It's usually an event that takes place in person, but let's see what happens. We're thinking this year it will be online too. But the idea is to bring what communities are doing to the decision makers, bringing it to their door so they get to interact with you and understand what the issues and barriers and actually promises are on the ground. And so in order to do our work, we build this up work throughout the year. And this year we've initiated 2 types of events. One is what we're calling the meet and greet, which you got a flavor of at during the September event, where we invite, and this is an invitation you receive through our newsletters and also on our website. I'll share with you the page on our website for that, on the Communities for Future website. But at this event, we invite a policymaker to directly be in conversation with our members about some of the key policies that may be relevant to you in your member state or at the EU level, where we think that our members should be more engaged in. And through having that conversation directly with the policy member, you not only hear from their side how decision-making is taking place, where they are in the process of decision-making, but they also give us information on how our members can directly provide input into the decision-making, where they can make interventions. And this is very, very important. Our policymakers are there to serve us. They're not just to make decisions on their behalf, they're there to serve us. So the more we engage with our policy members, whether that's at the EU level, such as the parliamentarians, members of the European Parliament that are elected by you all to represent us at the European Parliament, whether that's regional representatives at the Brussels level or ministers and other officials that sit on the European Council on behalf of their member states. And those are the people who are present in the member states and make decisions there, or people on your regional councils or municipalities. So these are all layers and levels of decision-making that take place that we want as much engagement from our community members as possible, because they're deciding our future. So why not make sure that we say how our future gets decided? And apart from the meet and greets, we have also set up a policy circle. And with the policy circle, the invitation went out earlier this year, and a lot of you are in the policy circle, and the circle is working together closely with the Learn domain, which is the Knowledge Commons domain, to develop policy visions and narratives, what we're calling policy pathways, and also connecting that to real legislative processes so that we can have recommendations to policy members on things that matter to us. And these policy pathways are currently looking at 8 thematic area where we have people interacting with us and helping us draft these policy pathways. So we are making sure that it's as collaborative as possible, and that's where we would invite more members to join these working groups. And there you can reach us by email. Our email is very easy. It's policyteam@ecolis.eu. So you can reach us anytime and let us know if you'd like to engage in that work. And then, of course, there's the Brussels event where we invite members to participate. And then we also have invitations from European institutions where we're invited sometimes as experts to make interventions. And from our side, we make sure we pass on these engagement invitations to our members first, so that it's not just us, the people in Brussels or people in the policy team or people in the ECOLI secretariat representing the communities, but our members and communities themselves. So those are the ways where we're trying to create engagement. And because of COVID, of course, everything is online. Let's see when that opens up. But just to show you the page of where you can find information on our meet and greets, I will share, but now, right, it's sharing. It's going to share something that's maybe coming up later. Apologies for that, but it's this page. I don't know if everyone can see. So under communitiesforfuture.org, under events, there's a special page for meet and greet events. And there's one coming up next week, which I'd specifically like for you to come to, where we're going to be answering a lot of these questions about our policy work, which is specifically with the policy team. So where you get to meet the 4 of us, talk about our work, but also talk about how we can assist you to help you get more engaged in policy work, but also how you can engage with our work directly. So that's on the 2nd of March, which is a Tuesday, from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Brussels time CET. So I'll leave it there for now, but thank you so much for listening and looking forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mira. So let's pass on to Tom.
Thank you, Paulina. And as research coordinator for ECOLIS, I, along with colleagues like Nara and Andre, who are both here, take responsibility for how in Communities for Future we work with knowledge, recognising that knowledge is important to all of our work. Mira was just saying how important it is for policy, how we're working there. It's important that our communications take advantage of the wealth of knowledge within and around community initiatives. And knowledge generation's a key feature of practice at all levels. So from the very embodied, experiential, often informal, everyday forms of learning that are happening in communities, through various projects that our members and ECOLIS itself are involved in. So lots of our members are involved in Erasmus Plus projects like BLAST, about the different education initiatives in our network, community climate coaches that Davy's leading, and right through to formal academic research that's creating a lot of interesting insights on community action, which doesn't often reach the grassroots and where it's needed in terms of practice. And the main mechanism that we've developed to do that in accordance with our values and bringing in our methodologies is through harnessing the power of the commons, a knowledge commons that brings together, connects and promotes synergies among all the different learning processes that are happening within our COPs, within our COPs ecosystem, within the different projects that are happening, and connecting the initiatives throughout our networks. A really nice example of the power of this to me comes from the Urbana project. So Urbana is a Horizon 2020 project on urban sustainability and justice, which is led by ICLE, who are an ECOLISA member, the Network of Local Government Sustainability Initiatives. And they has lots of ECOLISA members and other sympathetic universities as partners. And it's the first such project ECOLISA has been in, and these are the multi-million euro projects that the EU invests in to generate information for policy. So to have a network of community initiatives within one of those projects is already a great achievement. And we've built on that by building in our methods, so bringing in a community of practice as a vehicle for knowledge co-creation. So lots of grassroots actors through that community of practice have been directly contributing to Urbana, taking advantage of this expressway to policy influence that these projects provided. And we set up a knowledge commons to gather all the insights, gather all the learnings, harvest that in ways that can be shared, be used, be reused and applied, be accessible throughout our networks. And these are vehicles that may be integrated into communities for future. The COPs ecosystem may be a way for Urbana COP members to continue working together beyond the project. We may be able to integrate the Urbana knowledge commons into the communities for future knowledge commons. And that's just an example of how we're harnessing the transformative power of the commons. And Juan mentioned earlier that we were holding monthly sessions to co-design, continue the co-creation, to which you're all invited, and you'll find that you can contact Nora or me about that, or find information about how to connect in the follow-up.
Thank you, Tom, and thanks for all the four of you. This was a good brief overview on some work that is already happening, and some concrete invitations to. There's a lot of links in the chat flowing through, and don't worry if you don't catch all of them. We will put them together to a follow-up email that you will be getting from us later. And there were probably so many details also there that you didn't hear or remember everything. So I want to share with you a diagram that we have made to summarize a bit what you just heard, and maybe also some other points that were not mentioned yet. So this is the current situation, and it is meant for giving an overview on what Communities for Future is about. So on the left corner you can see about the core aims, and on the left, this goes fast. You will be able to look at this when you go to the breakouts if you like, or afterwards. But then we also have here some mentions of who are part of CFF, and of course the community-led initiatives around Europe are at the core, and we are here to support them and support you. And this piece here is meant to bring together all these little pieces of knowledge that my colleagues just shared here. You might want to look at it a bit closer with time, but hopefully it's clear and understandable. There's I will not repeat everything that is here. There is some things to mention is the Collaborate platform, for example, and the Facebook group, and our newsletter and website are the places to really find more information and find out what is currently ongoing and the next things that you can join. And the yellow bubbles here are the different circles that we have or that we're going to initiate soon. So that as an overview. And then we have also been listing some open questions here on the bottom, because as we've already said several times, this is not ready, this is work in progress, and this is something we want to invite you to co-create with us. So there is, for example, a big question about decentralization, regional implementation of this. How can this be useful for all of you in your local places as well as on the European scale? And we have also received a lot of great questions from all of you in the registration form. Thank you so much for those. And I hope that a lot of those questions were covered by the presentations that you have heard already. And most likely a lot of them were not. So we try to make sure that you will be getting answers to the questions that are still remaining after this session, and we will be getting back to you on those. And now we have a little moment to still hear a little bit more from the presenters, and look at what you have been putting into the Menti. If hopefully you have remembered to feed in something, and Sarah, you could share it on the screen now so we can look at it together. You can read a bit what people have been writing there. You can still put answers there if you like. So there's only 4 people who have written, so it's easy to quickly check what we can see. Now, Sarah, we lost the page. If you can go back to the previous one.
Yes, we can. I'll be there. Okay.
All right. So this is the moment. Also, if you want to open your mic, you're really welcome to. We can take a couple questions. That oh, someone is already getting a bit anxious about how complicated this sounds like. Well, I hope I hope it is. There's something that is concrete enough to grasp. Any of the presenters, anything you'd like to comment or add when you see what people have been writing?
Paulina, can I just say, it's Iva here again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would urge people to look at our website, communitiesforfuture.org, because we are really, I mean, it's a work in progress, that's clear. But what we're doing on this website is we're bringing together all the strands of our work, between events, opportunity to collaborate, share stories, find resources. And so a lot of the links that have been shared are different pages within that website. So just to say, to urge people to go there, and you can register to become so that you can start collaborating on the website.
Thank you, Iva. There's one concrete question here, which is about how Fridays for Future people can contribute to CFF. Maybe this is something we can also explore in the breakouts. Or does anybody here have something to respond to that directly? Well, we're currently building alliances and building entry points, and this is an interesting and important question to explore.
I think one thing that people can do is they can look at the Changemakers database, which is on the website under resources, which lists all the ECOLES members. So you can connect with people who are networks of community-led initiatives in your country or region. So that's just one practical suggestion in terms of, connecting with local change makers close to you.
We really hope that this could be a way to channel both like the anxiety and the sense of emergency that especially young people have around these issues into something very concrete and tangible in making change in practice through community-led initiatives. So this is, we hope that for example, people involved with Fridays for Future would find pathways to get to know the things that are being done on local levels. And hopefully we can help a lot of people in that, in really bringing this message to the mainstream. And
I wanted to come in. I guess you didn't see my hand. So a very concrete example is that in terms of EU policy, there's the Fridays for Future in Europe has been focusing a lot on the European agriculture policy, which is called the CAP. And they've been asking for it to be reformed or revoked, and that's also something that we, as in terms of our policy, will be looking at. And then under the Green Deal, the European Green Deal, there's also the Farm to Fork strategy. So for us, it's really important that activists who are working on issues on the ground that are connected with Brussels or European policymaking, for us to be informed on it so that we can work together and do some of the position making together on how we can influence policy and bring some of their demands to policymakers. And yeah, so the CAP reform was a very good example of how those connections happened.
Thank you so much. This would be the time for us to go on a break, as I feel like there has been already so much input during this first hour, and probably a lot of you are eager to start discussing and exploring these things deeper with each other. So that would be the next step in going into breakout rooms, and I would invite all of you to take 5 minutes for standing up, going a bit off screen for a moment, and refreshing yourself with whatever you need, and then coming back in 5 minutes. So that would be just before 6 o'clock.
So I hope you all had a good break. And now we enter in the second part of today's session. And space where we're going to make smaller groups. We are right now 50 participants, 50 people. So Sarah will be the one making the groups. And we will all go to these groups to discuss about how do we enable meaningful and powerful collaboration on community-led climate action. I'm going to share my screen briefly, and you will see. I will share the link. We will share the link with you. Each table will have access, well, all of you will have access to this Google slide, and each space, and you see that we have a community kitchen, we have a garden, we have a dome. So we have prepared many special spaces for all of you. I hope you will feel comfortable in all of them. So in each space, you have the same question. And the idea is that once you are in your group, you will work, you will discuss on how do we enable meaningful and powerful collaboration on community-led climate action, and how do we bring people with us? This is the umbrella question for all the groups. You will need to appoint a facilitator who will hold the space for an inclusive, focused, and fruitful discussion. You will need to appoint a note keeper, and ideally to a presenter. Because we are many people, we will not have to make a long presentation at the end. So if you go to the second slide, each space have 2 slides. The idea is that you will write here your names to have a to know who was participating in each space, and whoever is going to present, please just try to identify which is the highlighting, your most important idea or ideas. So the invitation would be that in the last minutes, in the last 3-4 minutes, that you devote your time to try to identify these key ideas that you want to share. But really, it's going to be maximum 1 minute or minute and a half per group. Okay, so it needs to be something very, very brief. You will have in total half an hour. Well, you know, time it can be a bit flexible, but depending on when we start and how everything goes, between 25 and 30 minutes. And then, in order to support a little bit your discussion, the question is there, it's clear. However, this is a very broad question. The invitation is that you can have different approaches. That's why we have different tables. And you may consider different aspects that we have shared here with you. Like, for example, you can talk about collaboration more from a personal, organizational, or societal level. You can talk more about local, national, European, or global collaboration, marginal, mainstream. Also to take into account head, heart, and hands into these collaboration processes. And of course, very important, everything that you have heard until now about communities of future, the communities of future as a context, to take that into account, okay? So I think this is the explanation, and it's pretty straightforward. You will be sent to the groups randomly. Also, the presenters, the idea is that you don't take, I mean, you support the rooms, but you don't take specifically a facilitator role. That's every room will decide by themselves. But the facilitators normally will be spread in the different groups to support the process. So I don't know, Sarah and Paulina, if there's anything that I'm missing, just to be sure everything's fine.
I have shared the link to the collective slides in the chat. So please remember to take the link along before you go to your rooms.
Yeah, an important thing that I didn't mention is that please take notes of it. This is a very, very important harvesting exercise. We will tell you at the end of the session, but the idea is that we will digest all this information and then it will be shared with you. And of course, you have access to this Google slide. So please take notes of all these insights and these ideas in order to foster this deep collaboration. And I know that some questions were emerging and we didn't have time to discuss before. Like, for example, David, you were talking about the different platforms that are emerging. So this is, for example, a key topic that you can bring to the discussion. So whatever it's in your head about collaboration, bring it there and let's try to continue this iterative process. Let's remember when we did the Mentimeter that many of us considered as network weavers, are people that foster collaboration, facilitates processes and so on. So let's do it together, okay? So thank you so much for the invitation. And I think, Sarah, it's you have the power. See you there and let's enjoy. Great. So I hope it was meaningful and fruitful conversation. We would have loved to spend a little bit more time. But let's hear what happened. We don't have much time. We have a little bit less than 15 minutes for the sharing. So that's why we encourage you to identify, choose one insight, idea, a concrete thing that you could share. Each of you will have between 1 minute and 2 minutes maximum. And I would like to invite you following the different spaces. So the first space was the community kitchen. I'm going to share my screen like this. All of you will be able to see the slide. And I think you have it here. I'm going to make it bigger. So community kitchen, who would like to start? Anastasia?
Yes. So we had quite a productive 15 minutes. And the first point we would like to bring is that the power of dialogue should also be more inclusive. We think that would bring communities to work together. And this should also mean including marginal voices outside our circles, but also focusing on translation. How can we make other languages and other communities more visible? And we also talked about needing to integrate different types of tools into this community work that we want to do, and also to accelerate and mainstream. So not just focus on the local aspects of community action, but also on the more international ones, which require a different type of action. And this could also be done by integrating all these platforms, joining all the platforms, which is something that I think Ecolis and Communities for Future is already doing. And if someone else from my group wants to add something, then...
I don't think we have time for that, Anastasia. Thank you so much. But if not, we will not be able to finish. Thank you so much. I think you summarized it very, very well. And you know, the community kitchens is always the heart of the community. So let's go now to the garden. Thank you. Oh, from the garden.
Well, I'll try. Hi, I try to summarize. Well, we talked on our team on how important is the role also of the local authorities in order to impulse and to make true some community-led initiatives, and how important it is to work in a team and in a group of citizens, and having a person that keeps the group active on that and sharing information. Some people, we said that it's very important to have practical actions and practical ideas that can inspire people and can convince them, and convince them in engaging in a community-led initiatives, and that it is very important to make this initiative visible through a communication policy, strategy, or campaign using social media, because many times they are not so visible, and people should know that these initiatives are real and practical, and they are feasible in their local communities, and they can follow the examples of other initiatives that are taking place in other cities. And we mentioned that sometimes it's difficult to get access or to get the response of some people that participating in groups, in collaborative groups, but not responding very well.
Okay. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you so much. So thank you, the people that worked in the garden. We have all the details here, and I think we need to move. I would like to ask for being as concise as possible. If not, we will not have time for the 7 groups. Let's go to the next one. We have to go to the coffee tea house. Let's go. Who wants to present?
Hi, apologies, this is Dominic here for the Coffee and Tea House. So just to highlight what our key areas are, they're highlighted there, which is great. I think the key areas that have a sense of ownership of the ideas that we bring within our community group and to our networks. Really important to bring a translation of jargon, and also especially when there's a non-specialist language. To be very conscious of the pivot from the pandemic of COVID-19 for our different groups. And collectively, it's like, how do we bring people together and young people, and what different initiatives could we do together to disseminate information? And just in case I missed something, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Dominique. Great. So let's go now to the Dome. Who wants to present from the Dome?
So I will be presenting, and for us, we've started from the point of spiritual ecology, where we recognize that there are groups with spiritual background that are interested in ecology, and then it's a learning process, and connecting with others who are doing the same are it would be very valuable. And if we take it to a different level, it can be different kinds of transitions as well. Like you can be going in different directions from what you're used to doing to something new. So it can be a kind of exchange of experience in that sense, building personal connections and also interacting with institutions. So trust was a key issue we mentioned. It's something worthwhile building, both between people themselves and also between people and institutions who are people who are working in communities, and also interactions between community workers and academics, policymakers, business people. So yeah, these were some main stresses.
So thank you so much, Nara, and all the people from the Dome. Very inspiring place, I'm sure. And now we go to the tipi. Wow, what happened in the tipi? Who wants to explain what happened there?
We talked about a lot about how to bring people with you, because most people need to hit rock bottom before willing to take action. We have to lower the bar so others can step in. We have to communicate your vision, your mission, and your passion, for instance, with storytelling. And don't preach, but live by example. Enjoy yourself. That's it.
To the point. Thank you so much. Very good, the work in the tipi. And now we go to the sunny terrace. So who would like to share from the sunny terrace in the middle of the winter?
Hi. So the sunny terrace conversation, we didn't write down as much. We're talking about practical examples that can be seen by your local community, so you can come and find out ways of doing things, being incredibly important, and investing in supporting those communities and groups looking to do and create those practical embodiments. We also talked about the networking between different community groups on the ground and how important it is to invest in systemically, to be investing in those groups so that they have the capacity and they're not just constantly working from a volunteer place, but they're able to have the support to be able to communicate well, the case studies, and communicate well with other groups so that it's fun and that it can look like it's the best party in town anyway, so that it's really compelling. And also we spoke about having a basis around values, and then the ethics that come from those values of care, and then the working practices that come from those ethics, being a really important way of people collecting around vision. And that we talked a lot about what it is to meet people where they're at, to not make them wrong for not thinking the same as us, or not to assume that we have, that they have to do what we're saying, but to be really deep listening into the wisdom and ways of working that everybody has in their own families and landscapes, and to be then really presenting what is helpful to them, useful to them in the skills bases and the different information that you can bring together to support conversation around climate, and identifying that is particularly important in terms of diversity, and really learning from the diversity of all sorts of different people, and then and working collaboratively that way.
So thank you so much, Susie, and thank you so much to Sunny Terrace. And we go to the last group, and the last group was in the greenhouse. So let's go to the greenhouse.
Greetings from the greenhouse. So the greenhouse wants to reinforce the point already heard that we depart in town, in the sense that we focused a little bit on the second question: how do we bring people with us? Once they see us passionate, living our values, healthy from the kind of work we do, we become like magnets. They want to live this passion. People want to engage with well-being. And so after, from our example, they can tune into us, and then they ask us, but why are you doing it? What are you doing? Well, we have a big family in Europe. We have a shared narrative. We have a community of practice. We have friends who reinforce our lifestyle everywhere we go. And this is just fun doing. And this, for us, it's a more of a subtle way to engage without words or the mental element with people around us, and bring more people onto the boat with us on this beautiful adventure.
So thank you so much, Ricardo and the Greenhouse Group. I think this was a very good way to end this short summary from each of you. I think it's wonderful what we have been able to harvest in this half an hour of collaborative work in these 7 groups. You have access to all this information, and indeed in the next slide you can see how our colleagues have been putting here, you know, all the key points that you have been sharing. Summarize all this.
Inclusive videos.
So thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. You will have access to the document if you want to look at it. And as I've said, we will be able to, the idea is that we will be working with all this content and we will be connecting with you afterwards, okay? But we will need some time. And now it's time to continue with the process in these last 15 minutes. And I would like to hand over to Davy, Fran, and Ricardo. They're going to be the ones leading the next 10 minutes approximately. So over to you.
So thank you all so much for that. It looks like there was so much rich harvest and a lot we can learn, and especially I really appreciated in my group, and I think in many groups that there were lots of different voices from people who are not in our meetings usually, and I think that brings a lot of wisdom, so I really enjoyed that. What we want to talk about just for the next few minutes is another concrete way that people can get involved with Communities for Future through supporting EcoLease. Thank you. Yeah, so another concrete way you can input into Communities for Future by supporting EcoLease, and that is through engaging with the General Assembly, attending the General Assembly, which is coming up in April, the 16th to 18th of April, which is open to all members of EcoLease, also to observers, so people who aren't yet members but might want to be. And this is, if you're already a member, this is a really important moment. This is where we look back on our achievements, where we maybe didn't do so well, what we can learn, and look forward to really guide the ship for the coming year. And we need your input on that. So it's both a kind of joy and an interesting moment, and also kind of responsibility as a member to get involved and help us set the course. And what we really especially want to invite people to do is to step up and offer themselves as members of the council. So at the moment on the council, we have a group of 9 people, somebody correct me, with councillors also with a co-presidency. So that's at the moment me and Davy. But this is really one of many ways that you can kind of just deepen your connection, bring your wisdom, bring your input, and help chart the course of where we want to go. And we really need your engagement and input. And to just talk a little bit more about what this kind of service to the network and to Communities for Future and to community-led regenerative climate action is all about. We have Ricardo, who is also a council member. He's going to talk a little bit about what it has meant to him to be on the EcoLease Council.
Thank you, Fran. So yes, I wanted to take a couple of minutes to share a little bit about my experience, and perhaps it can inspire yours. I joined the EcoLease Council as a really young member, I think one of the youngest members of the council, and I was quite an idealist with the experience leading in different continents, love for networking and advocacy, but really little experience and a lot of questions. And I saw that the ship was in really good hands, and I could have learned and networked and really getting my hands dirty in all levels of the work of EcoLease and the birth of Communities for Future. So after 2 years now, I'm back in my hometown. I'm starting to finally grow my roots, and I'm keeping the outlook and the relationships and all the knowledge that I learned through my work in service and in the council. So this is to share that it's a really accessible space. It's filled with really passionate people who really know what they're doing. Collectively, it's been a pleasure, and the relationship are really, really enriching. And now that I have understood how policy advocacy works, I can work better in my hometown. Now that I've understood how to increase the engagement with diversity, I can work much better in my local community. And inclusion of topics such as social justice, for example, for me, who I come from the permaculture background and I was really land focused, has really also enriched my life in the community. So whatever your focus is, if you're considering to be in the council, expect to engage with a very diverse set of beliefs and practice and backgrounds, where yours is also always understandable and appreciate the contribution. So yeah, just a couple of words. Thank you. And I give it to Davy.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you, Fran. And thank you all for such a rich and deep inquiry into collaboration. And so just some reflections to finish. I think if we're going to deepen our collaboration, if we're going to have impact in making this transition that we so urgently need to make, we are going to have to bust some silos and weave together fragmented communities and networks at the local, the national, and the international levels. And I think Communities for Future can enable us to work across Europe with much more impact and accelerate the adoption of the approaches to regenerate and build resilience in our local communities. I think if we can take the first rule or the first principle of platforms here, that the first principle of platforms is mission before organization. And I think what we do as we move beyond our institutional egos and we come together to achieve that mission, I think there can be some deep personal learning, as Ricardo has outlined there in his own experience of his own development through engaging at this higher level, even for people so young. So I think there's an opportunity, I think, to step in, not just for our own benefit, not just for our own organization's benefit, but for the benefit of aggregating our value and having much more impact in the mission of building this transition, enabling this inclusive, just transition to an economy and a society that work for us all. So I feel so grateful for being part of this Council of Equalities, and with Fran being a co-president for the last 2 years. Our term is coming to an end, but I think there's an opportunity for others to step in. In deepening collaboration, let's continue to have these conversations, come to the sessions, and I'll pass over to Juan for just to close this, which has been a fantastic Communities for Future session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Davy. And thank you to everyone that has made possible this session all together. And well, how to close this? No, this is just one little step in something bigger that we are co-designing, that we are co-producing together, that we are doing together. No, this is an example of collaboration in itself. The process of doing this session together and participating and thinking together how to continue. So you have shared many ideas. You have heard from us and from many of your colleagues, many possibilities of contributing, collaborating in this process. And Communities of Future is a way of doing it. We really want you to participate, and we want to do it together. That's the idea. If we can, we are at the beginning. We need to be very humble, because our expectations, or our, we're dreamers sometimes, no? And we want really to do everything quickly, and sometimes it's not possible, but we are making important steps. And for example, we have been 60 people in this session from many different places, from many different countries. We could have been doing so many different things today, but here we are still at 7:45 people, no? So I'm gonna share quickly just one slide with you. This one. We have shared with you, well, you have access to this document, to this Google slide. We have shared the different entry points to Communities for Future, the ones that they exist right now, but many they need to be co-designed and discovered. So you have all this information. If you want to access to the details of all of this, please go to the communitiesforfuture.org website. That's the place to have more information about it. And we will reconnect with you. We will share a summary of the information of this session, and you can follow us, of course, through our social networks, subscribe to our newsletter, and join our platform. We were talking about our platform, so we are at the beginning with the first version of our Communities for Future platform, and you have the link here, communitiesforfuture.org, collaborate. So please join there, and let's start experiment together. Okay, let's make this together. So thank you, Paulina, Sarah, and everyone that was behind this session. And I think this is the end of it. So should we maybe just share on the chat, something that you take from this session, something that you are bringing home, something that has inspired you, something that you want to share with the others? And also at the end, we can just open our mics and say goodbye to everyone. So that's what has come to my side. I know if Sarah or Paulina, would you like to share some last words too?
I sent a message to the chat also asking for any feedback that you might have, because that is always very, very useful for us in developing these sessions and making them always better. So in case you want to send it as a private message, that's very welcome, or get back to us by email afterwards. It would be lovely if you could use a minute or so to just write some short feedback. Thank you so much for being here today. It's been really lovely to have all of you here. It was a big group. And wow.
We are on time. I can't believe it, Paulina. We are on time.
Yeah, well done.